At the start of the 20th century, the world was a very different place than it is today. Women couldn't vote, many couldn't own property, and they never received equal pay for equal work. They were denied education, excluded from science, barred from leadership, and expected to obey the quiet rules of domesticity. The idea that a woman could be a war hero, a pilot, a politician, a scientist, or even simply speak out, was not just unlikely. It was unthinkable. But even in those early years, something was shifting. A pulse beneath the surface. A restlessness that began in whispers and started to grow. This is the story of the women who redefined gender in a patriarchal society. If the world wouldn't change for them, they would have to change the world. Welcome to Animata Historia, breathing life into historic photographs from around the world to remind us of how we used to live, where we came from, and what made us who we are today. In this three-part series, we are reanimating photographs of fearless women who defied the odds and redefined what it means to be a woman in a man's world. Part 2. Women at War. A child of Indian Sufi mystics, Noor Inayat Khan grew up speaking music, not war. Raised in poetry. But when the world darkened, she answered not with fear, but with action. In Nazi-occupied France, she became one of Britain's most vital spies and was the first woman to be dropped behind enemy lines to work as a spy, despite being just a wireless operator. Slipping through alleys and shadows, she transmitted coded messages under constant threat of capture. She knew the cost. She stayed anyway. Eventually, she was caught, imprisoned, tortured. But Noor gave them nothing. No names, no locations, not even her own silence. Her defiance echoed through her refusal. Her last word before execution was liberté. Her silence was deafening. Her courage, immeasurable. Lyudmila Pavlichenko was the deadliest female sniper in history. With 309 confirmed kills during World War II, she stood on the battlefield and declared, "I am a woman, and I have no fear." A history student before the war, she enlisted after the Nazi invasion of the Soviet Union, determined to fight despite skepticism about a woman in combat. Wounded several times, she was eventually sent to the US to rally support for the Allied cause. There, she famously confronted sexist questions and inspired millions.
Gentlemen, I am 25 years old and I have killed 309 fascist occupants by now. Don't you think, gentlemen, that you have been hiding behind my back for too long?
Her rifle was her answer to war, her courage an answer to doubt. Her legacy remains one of unshakable resolve and fearless defiance. Lam T. Depp was only 24 years old when she picked up a rifle in Vietnam. Her portrait, calm, composed, filled with intensity, became a symbol of a nation's resistance. She didn't smile for the camera. She didn't have to. Like many North Vietnamese women, she fought fearlessly for the Viet Cong, challenging traditional expectations and proving that war was no longer a man's domain. Simone Seguin was just 18 years old when she joined the French resistance to fight Nazis in the streets of Chartres. With stolen weapons and forged papers, she derailed trains, captured enemy soldiers, and reclaimed her country, one act of defiance at a time. Here's a teenage Seguin, posing for photographers during celebrations for the liberation of Chartres on August 23, 1944. This photograph was taken shortly after capturing 25 Nazis hiding in the woods in 1944. In 2021, she was appointed a Knight of the Legion of Honor, France's highest order of merit.
Marina Ginesta was just 17 when photographer Juan Guzman captured her on the rooftop of the Hotel Colón in Barcelona during the July 1936 military uprising in Barcelona. It became one of the most iconic photographs of the Spanish Civil War. Rifle slung over her shoulder, youth blazing in her eyes, she became the face of resistance, even if she only held the weapon for that photograph. Sometimes symbolism is as powerful as action. Erika Ziles was a young soldier and nurse in the Hungarian Revolution of 1956. When her photo was taken by a Danish photographer, her image graced the covers of several European magazines, and she became an international symbol of the revolution.
Erika was gunned down in the streets of Budapest only 7 days after this photo was taken. She was tending to a wounded friend, was completely unarmed, and was wearing a uniform with the red cross of a nurse on it.
Veronica Foster, nicknamed Ronnie the Bren Gun Girl, posed for posters and propaganda during World War II, but she wasn't just a symbol. She built weapons with her hands and danced with her friends in the evenings. She was the rhythm of resilience, the soundtrack of a generation that worked and waited and wondered.
In 1917, Loretta Perfectus Walsh made history as the first woman to enlist in the U.S. Navy. At a time when military service was considered solely a man's duty, she shattered expectations, donning the uniform not as a nurse, but as a sailor. Her courage marked a turning point, proving that patriotism and service knew no gender. Loretta didn't just enlist, she rewrote the rules, inspiring generations of women to challenge boundaries and serve with pride. A remarkable 106-year-old woman in the village of Deg, near the city of Goris in southern Armenia, sits with an AKM in her lap, guarding the home she refused to abandon. At that time, an armed conflict in and around Nagorno-Karabakh, a disputed territory claimed by Armenia, had heightened tensions. This led to the displacement of hundreds of thousands of people from their homes. Some fight with youth and strength. Others use resilience and refusal to surrender. Turkey's Daughter of the Skies, Sabiha Gökçen, became the world's first female fighter pilot. Orphaned and adopted by Mustafa Kemal Ataturk, the founding father of Turkey, and also its first president, she flew combat missions for a newly born republic. Her flight was not just progress, it was power, measured in altitude and impact. On the 18th of May 1953, Jacqueline Cochran became the first woman to break the sound barrier. Raised in poverty, fueled by fire, she flew higher, faster, farther. She led the women Air Force service pilots and outpaced most men of her era. In her roar across the sky, she didn't just make history, she shattered it. But her legacy was not just speed, it was persistence. It was building a path wide enough for others to follow. These American nurses landing in Normandy in 1944 didn't carry rifles, they carried relief. With bloodied aprons and trembling hands, they healed where others destroyed. Theirs was not the glory of conquest, but of care. They were entering what had always been the domain of men, and bravely risked their own lives to save others. In Britain's darkest hour of the 1940s, while men went to war, women stood ready at home. The Women's Home Defense Corps rose from the shadows, volunteers trained in first aid, signaling, and even arms. They watched the skies, patrolled the streets, and prepared to defend their homeland, whatever the cost. They weren't soldiers, but they were ready to fight, to protect both their country and their families from the threat of invasion. In 1918, as World War I raged, the U.S. Marine Corps broke tradition. Following the lead of Alpha Mae Johnson, who became the first woman to enlist, these brave women shattered barriers in a male-dominated force. Clerks, bookkeepers, warriors in uniform. They stepped into roles once deemed unthinkable. They didn't ask for permission, but they did make history. In a time when both her gender and her race barred her from the halls of power and medicine, Mary Seacole forged her own path with resilience and compassion. Denied the opportunity to serve officially alongside Florence Nightingale during the Crimean War, Mary refused to be turned away. Instead, she funded her own voyage and established the British Hotel near the front lines, where she treated wounded soldiers and offered comfort far from home. Nicknamed Mother Seacole by the troops she nursed, she became a legend in her own time, admired for her bravery under fire and her dedication to healing. Though history nearly forgot her, today we remember Mary Seacole not only as a pioneering nurse, but as a symbol of courage, innovation, and unwavering humanity. From the smoke of battlefields to the quiet strength behind enemy lines, these women of war redefined courage. But their fight didn't end when the guns fell silent. Beyond the front lines, another kind of battle was being fought, a battle for equality, to be seen and to be heard, and for those brave enough, an opportunity to prove to the world that gender plays no role in ambition. The final video in this series, Part 3, is now available. Titled Political Powerhouses, it features powerful women who became leaders in predominantly male political arenas. These are the women who redefined gender and changed history forever.